Should Hilda be sitting here?
No.
Good editing. Here we go.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the BNI Partners in Excellence show. I am really excited today because we not only have our member Rich here, but we have Hilda from Corazón de Vida. Both of them are going to talk to us about the nonprofit today, a little backstory, some personal backstory stuff, and then some organizational backstory stuff. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Very excited to have you here. This is my first time meeting you, so my second time meeting you. No, okay, fine. Third.
We're hanging out sometimes. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So we're gonna talk a little bit about kind of like how did we all end up at this place and this moment in life, and then what's Corazón de Vida doing? How are you guys both involved? Let's kind of share that with people who don't know the whole story, and then we'll talk more about like our backstory and what we need to do next to help all the people you're reaching. Sound like a plan?
Yes.
That sounds great.
So let's kind of start like, okay, for everyone who hasn't heard of it before, what is Corazón de Vida and what does it stand for and who are you helping?
So Corazón de Vida is a nonprofit organization based in Southern California that exists to support orphaned and abandoned children in Baja, Mexico. This is our 31st year of serving the children of Baja. So what we do is we mainly fundraise to ensure that the children in Baja have their needs covered at the orphanages. So we provide funding for life-sustaining support, for improving their quality of life, and for education. And we can expand on those areas. But basically, we cover the whole thing. We partner with these orphanages. We look at what other support they're getting, from other sources, and then we cover the gaps. That's where we see ourselves.
And how long have you been doing this?
So I'm the founder of the organization.
So 31 years
31
plus
years.
ramp up time.
31 years.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing. What kicked this whole thing off for you though?
So my siblings and I were fortunate enough to end up in an orphanage when we needed it the most. I was 8 years old. And I was 16 when I left the orphanage. So I lived 8 years in an orphanage, my siblings for 10. It was just a great, it was life-saving for us, definitely. And I guess I didn't realize what a difference it made until I became an adult. I usually say it's not unlike when anyone that realizes later in life what their parents did for them. I started to think about how everything happened, how it was that I had 3 meals a day, that I had all my needs covered, and especially became very, very present when I visited the orphanage as an adult and realized that they had lost a lot of the support. That's when I started to learn how orphanages work.
So you mentioned you were very fortunate enough. Now that might be surprising to some people that you would say it that way. So what is behind that? Because you're saying in retrospect, okay, I see all these things that were done or that we benefited from, but why is it that way to you?
Well, because the alternative was not a good alternative for us. Our specific story is that my mother became a single parent when my father left the family. There was 4 of us. I'm the oldest of the family. And she kind of knew about the orphanage system, but she didn't want to give us up. So she decided that at 8 years old, I was old enough to stay home and take care of my siblings while she went to work to provide for us. And it kind of seemed to work a little bit, with the neighbors kind of looking in on us, except that one day, one of my brothers almost drowned in the water tank that fed the house. He was playing around, fell into it. He almost drowned. He was under my care. So that was, I still remember the day. I still remember when it happened. I still remember thinking he was going to die and it was going to be my fault. And thank God he didn't. He was saved. And it was that situation that caused my mom to figure that they're going to be better off and safer in an orphanage. And that's when she placed us in an orphanage. So for us, that was a big change. And it seemed to be a blessing.
Wow.
For us.
So you were 8 when this happened?
I was
And
8 years
your
old.
brother who almost drowned, how old was he?
He was 7, 6.5, 7.
Okay, so he's right behind you.
Mhm.
Okay. And then there's 2 other siblings.
2 other siblings.
And how old were they at that same time?
The youngest was 3.
Wow. Okay. So 3 through 8, 4 total.
Yeah.
And that's quite a that is a scary event.
Yeah. And it's not a very unique situation, unfortunately, because of the extreme poverty that we have in the world, but specifically I'm looking at Baja in the area where I was raised. So kind of going back to how orphanages work in Mexico. So orphanages are started usually by families, families that start taking in kids. A lot of times it's a pastor from a church. And so the church kind of gets together, helps out. They seek support mainly from groups and organizations in the U.S. That's why a lot of the orphanages are located closer to the border. And they start taking in kids. The kids are usually brought to the orphanages by the government. So they're picked up from abusive situations, from the streets, from situations where they shouldn't be, and they're brought to the orphanages by social services. The government kind of retains legal custody of the kids, but then the orphanage becomes their everyday support. Once the orphanages agree to take the kids in, then they agree to provide for those kids food, shelter, education, everything. And that's why it's so important for us to partner with those orphanages to ensure that they have what they need for the children.
Wow, that's incredible. And I know that there's a lot more behind that. So I'm gonna come pick at that in a minute, because I want to learn like how this became involved with the both of you together. Because Rich, you joined BNI, and some of you who don't know this, BNI San Diego has made a concerted effort in 2025 to include nonprofits in chapters where there's business people that meet regularly online, hybrid, or in person. And we happen to be an in-person every week chapter. And so when you were invited in, I was really excited because I've known about this since last year. So kind of having some insight into how things work at the BNI level in San Diego at the highest level. I knew this was coming, and I was like, oh, we're going to get a nonprofit this year. We have to get a nonprofit. And then it ended up happening. And I'm so excited and grateful for that. So tell me how this happened between the two of you. How did you get in the mix here, Rich?
Through a friend, and I was pastoring a church in the North Park area at the time. And as a pastor, I always wanted any church that I was involved in to be out in the communities or with our neighbors, investing and making a difference in a justice-driven manner. So that's always been my philosophy as a minister. And then, so friends of mine said, hey, I want you to check out Corazón de Vida. And I'm like, how do you say it? Corazón, what? Because I'm a gringo. I can't speak Spanish and all those things. And so the kids love making fun of me, which is awesome. But I said, yeah, I'll go check it out. So two of our donors took me. And I went to my first orphanage that I went to was Los Angelitos. And it's a very unique orphanage because it's smaller. And we say smaller, about 20, 25 kids. And the uniqueness of this orphanage is that there's a large family that is an amazing story into itself, how they are there, but they were brought there, a family of 9.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Big. So I got to know these kids, and over a period of time, I just went, I have to be involved in this. I have to make a difference because Corazón de Vida is making a difference literally every single day. Hilda's work is impacting over 500 kids every day, 500 kids. And those kids, be it from toddler age to however age that they decide that, they age out at 18, but what I love about Hilda's vision is that she wants to break the cycle of poverty. is very, very important to the mission of Corazón de Vida, or it just repeats itself over and over. Yeah. So education, be it trade school or literal education, university, she has fostered this community to where if you're a child and you are fortunate enough to be a part of the Corazón de Vida family, you're promised your education. You're promised university, it's a place to live. You're going to need to get a job, but we also help with expenses and books and a laptop and all those things that you need. And so when I first started hanging out with the kids, one of them said, "I'm going to be an engineer." I'm like, "Oh man, okay, cool. I don't know that's going to happen." I'm convinced today Carlos is going to be an engineer. I'm convinced, or an all-star soccer player, because that's another story. But I'm convinced that his sister is going to succeed. His rest of his family is going to succeed, because Hilda has brought together people throughout San Diego, Los Angeles, Orange County. She's brought people together that definitely want to make an impact now. And that impact is very real. And that's why I encourage everyone to go on a bus trip. Just go down on a bus. I was fortunate. I got to go in a nice little car, and but this is a chartered bus, so I guess I wasn't that fortunate. There's food and things like that. So it's a great experience. And that's where you are in their community. We're not there, and I say this as just a pasty white dude, we're not there to save them. They're already in community. They're already in family. They have a lot of challenges. They need a lot of therapy. They need a lot of love, which Corazón de Vida, through these orphanages, provide. But it's key. The key part is that we go to become a part of their journey. So that's what we always encourage adults. Don't just disappear. Come back if you can. So
I want to I love that you were referred by a friend, first of all, in the whole referral spectrum of what we do for BNI. Right. Yep. I kind of like that. This is kind of how those things work, and then amazing things can happen. But I want to, and this is, I think this is my own judgment here. I think there's a little bit of sensitivity to what I'm about to ask you, which is, how do you navigate the fine line between bringing people down to have them participate or witness and observe and engage, at the same time making sure that these kids' abandonment isn't being put on display? Because in orphanages where people are taking kids that they either can't take care of, or the government is taking them out of their possession and say, hey, you are ill-equipped. And I know that leads to embarrassment and shame and abandonment. And I know that the places are all working on those things in a psychological and emotional level. However, talk about that, that fine balance between we want a lot of engagement and support. We want people to see it firsthand, but man, we also really don't want to just put their pain on display.
Yeah. So I think the great thing about Corazón de Vida and the fact that the orphanages that we support are just on the other side of the border. We are not expanding beyond that for a reason, and that's one of the main reasons, is we want to be as close to them as possible so that we can be part of their everyday lives. So when we come down and visit, it's Corazón de Vida visiting. And the kids know any orphanage you go to, a bus from Corazón de Vida arrives, and they all know it's Corazón de Vida. And they've seen us for however long they've been at the orphanage, because we've been doing these trips for 31 years. And they used to be every month. After COVID, we had to kind of start all over again, and now we're doing every couple of months. But we really want to make sure, and we make sure that the kids know that we are there to support them and to be part of their lives. I mean, we have volunteers that have been on these trips that met the kids when they were little, and now they've been in their lives for 10 years, 12 years. A child, Brianna, for instance, one of our chapter members, met this little girl when she was maybe 7 or 8 years old. The girl's now in university, and they still, now they hang out. Wow. She'll go to Tijuana and visit her. But because, she's had that opportunity to be a part of her life for that long. So I think that's what makes us a little bit unique. So it's not like, we're going somewhere super far and we're only going once every year or every couple of years.
Yeah.
But we are part of their lives. Any orphanage you go to and you ask, the kids know who Corazón de Vida is, and they know that we're there for them.
I think that it's one thing for us as parents to go, okay, I know how much all this costs me every month to raise these kids and whatever. And I've had I'll say the unique position in my life where not too long ago we had extra kids living with us. So we have our 3 and we had 4 extra. I shouldn't say extra, 4 additional. And that was for 10 months of our life, and that was very rewarding but challenging in a way I'd never experienced. And it also gave me great respect for the effort that goes into and the volume of care that's required beyond the natural set of, let's say, emotional and mental and even spiritual provision for my own kids, and then to add to that, it was very challenging. So I know that the work that goes into having an orphanage has to just be that, magnified.
It is.
And just the sheer, like, just the volume of daily care needs, clothes, socks, backpacks, food, water, lunch containers, it's an order of magnitudes. You mentioned that there's 500 orphans that are now being provided for because of your group. How many different orphanages does that kind of envelop?
So we have 10 orphanages that we support. We started with the orphanage where I grew up for the first 7 years or so. Then we started slowly expanding as we were able to bring in more funds. But so we support 10 orphanages. It's not, as I mentioned, we work with each orphanage to see where the gaps are, and we make sure that they have what they need so that they're able to provide for the children in other ways. So they're not so worried about whether they're going to be able to feed the children the next day, which can happen a lot in these orphanages. They rely 100% on the generosity of individuals and organizations and churches. And so that can be, as you can imagine, that can be heartbreaking, and it can be so, just where it takes your mind so much that you can't even provide for the children's emotional needs. And so we want to make sure that we take that equation out. We know and we understand that education is the best thing that we can do, supporting education with the orphanages, but we can't just focus on that and not provide for the basic needs. So we most of our fundraising goes towards providing for basic needs, improving their quality of life, providing for psychologists and dentists and doctors and all the basic things that the kids need, but then with a huge emphasis on education, providing for the needs of K through 12 at the orphanages, like you mentioned, uniforms, backpacks, shoes, supplies, all of that. And then in 2012, we started the program of providing scholarships for the kids that were aging out of the orphanage system. After being, working with the orphanages for several years and seeing the kids that we met at 2 and 3 years old leave at 18, then finding out that, they're on drugs, the girls are pregnant within 6 months, we knew that was not the answer for these kids. We knew that they really needed the tools and the experience and a way for them to provide for themselves and their families. And so we, at that point, I keep saying that we took a leap of faith because we didn't have the funding to take on, providing scholarships. And we knew that those scholarships had to be for whatever it is that they needed. So if the kid didn't have anybody to live with, we had to pay for housing. We had to pay for transportation, for everything. And so that's been kind of our formula since then. We've put more than about 130 kids through the program. 50 are actively in the program right now. We've got over 70 that have graduated, and we've got 15 that are going to take the entrance exam to university this year.
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
Every year we graduate a few kids, and then we put, bring more kids into the program. So, today we have a number of, psychologists and attorneys and doctors and nurses.
Veterinarians.
And kids that are living a great life. because of the generosity of everyone that's participated with Corazón de Vida.
But and even just the short time that we've been sitting here talking, I mean, your life is a demonstration of that same thing.
Exactly.
So, it's not entirely shocking that the success of them moving through and then into this scholarship kind of section of life also, I'll say, breeds results.
Yes.
Because you're sitting here as that end result and outcome of the very thing you're now pouring into. So I love that. And then you have, willing hearts and capable minds and passionate people that are behind this and dumping now their effort into helping that. So I want to talk for the people who don't understand kind of how your role fits into all this. I want to take a minute and let's talk about how people who are like, okay, that sounds all cool. That's great. Yeah, we love the idea. So where does Rich plug into all this? What are you doing day in and day out? What can people be doing to help you in your role with helping the orphanages? Let's go kind of there and spend some time.
Well, how it all happened. This individual, a friend of mine, said, "I want you to meet Hilda," and she didn't know we were scheming for me to come on staff, and I didn't expect her to be told anything until she got to know me, because I really wanted to work for Corazón de Vida. And while I'm heading to the restaurant, he's like, "Hilda, Rich is coming to interview," which someone who had done that to me, I probably would have just said, "All right, this is off," or "Give me 5 shots," or something. I can't deal with this. But she sat with me. She listened to my journey of my life of working with homeless teens throughout San Diego, starting Street Angels, and then working with teens in Seattle, and then also being one of the founding board members of Invisible Children. And that's where we worked with child soldiers in Uganda. So
I know that story.
Yeah.
Did you? You and I didn't talk about that, but I know that story.
It's a great story. I know those guys are awesome, and became a board member. And things, as life gets messy, things go south. But it's,
wait, hold on, wait. You were a board member on Invisible Children?
Yeah.
And you and I didn't know each other.
No.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to come back to that because
Yeah.
I knew what was going on with that when that was happening,
Yep.
and because of the other church and their support of that effort towards Invisible Children and for the orphanage that they had in Uganda.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
I've been there several times and worked with the filmmakers.
Wow.
Amazing organization. But so obviously there is a passion in who I am for making change, and not just a change of a policy or what have you, even though that's very important, but a change of an action that will save a life. Like Mexico, this was a shock to pasty white me, San Diegan guy. When I went into Mexico and I was visiting these orphanages, to hear, well, there's no foster care program. There's no government net. Now, for those of us in United States and Canada and what have you, we find that just shocking. People are still surprised when Hilda shares that every orphanage in Baja California and all throughout Mexico is supported and funded by those individuals who started it, their friends and community, and also people within the states. And so that's been an amazing part of my journey. So since I was starting churches for the outcasts, people who didn't like to go to church, and that's what I did in my ministry days, I knew how to raise money. And so I went to Hilda and I said, I know how to raise money. It's just natural for me. And I want to be a part of telling this story, your story, because it's so impactful and it's making such a difference. Now, I say this, and I don't know if you get embarrassed or what have you, but I have 3 women in my life that have made such a huge impact in my life. They were the strongest women, strongest people I've ever met. And my first one is my mother. She was the mother of 8 kids, very abusive father, but she never gave up on us. She was there. She hung in there. I think at times if she had a choice, she would have taken us to an orphanage. But she was terribly
Most
afraid.
moms have that pit stop.
Yes.
Whether they have 2 kids, 1 or 8.
Yeah, there was 8, and just a really tough house. It was very dysfunctional. but she was a solid rock in my life. And then the second woman who made such a huge impact in my life is my sister. She fought a disease that it killed her eventually, a form of cancer in the bones. But she was amazing. Her husband died early of cancer, and she raised her 2 kids, and now they're both in careers and doing well. So, and then I met Hilda, this person who, built her life here in the States, and decided, I want to go back and check out how my orphanage is doing, the orphanage I grew up in. And she found it in somewhat of disrepair, not a good situation compared to what she had. As all things, leadership is crucial. And she then went back and began to share with her coworkers, because what I understand, no one really knew her story. And then she begins to share her story, which I'm sure could be made you nervous and some anxiety.
Yes. So I was just learning English. I was here, I came to the States when I left the orphanage, which I was around 16, 17 years old. And I was learning English. I was trying to assimilate. And I was, trying to not have anybody feel sorry for me, for my situation or whatever. So I'd never shared anything about my background. But in order to get support for the orphanage, I had to. That was one of the things that I had to do, was to kind of step into that. And, whether I was concerned or embarrassed or whatever it was, I needed to kind of let that go, because the need to support the children was greater than that. And the beautiful thing that I learned, and I tell this to everyone that participates with Corazón de Vida, is that I learned that when I was presenting people with the opportunity to support and be a part of the Corazón de Vida and be a part of the support system for the children, I was giving them purpose. I was giving them that amazing gift that a lot of people are looking for, and they can't necessarily find where or how. But when someone presents them with the actual, here's the need, and you can do something right now that can make a huge difference. And over the years, I've had so many people say how their life was impacted by them becoming a part of this amazing community. And we need more people.
We need more people.
Yeah.
We need more people. And that's what part of what Rich is doing, is helping us reach out and bring in more to this community, because the support to the children relies on the size of our community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and we have to have that and continue to have that. And we know, and we say all the time, our responsibility at Corazón de Vida is, number one responsibility is to fundraise and grow our community, so that we have a way to support the children. And as the needs grow, our support grows with them. So I think, that's why him participating in the BNI network is such an amazing thing for us as well, because we expose, our work to all the wonderful people that are members, and provide the opportunity for them to participate as well. And I know that they've done that in a big way already. Yes.
Right before we started, I was telling Hilda, like, hey, our whole thing is givers gain. And, that whole giving attitude is that way, so we can attract in people who have that and embody that, even though they're also in business. And I say even though, because a lot of times, like, oh, you're in business, you're just this like warmonger, money-hungry capitalist pig, oink oink, right?
Wow.
Like that's
it's a lot there.
Well,
yes,
but that's the outside looking in attitude.
I agree.
But what you'll find with most entrepreneurs who have, I'll say bootstrapped their success, is maybe their story doesn't weave through an orphanage, but it does weave through hard times.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it does weave through having to figure stuff out, because you don't have enough in the wallet to buy the solution or buy the help. You got to sort stuff out and figure it out. And so a lot of times you end up in groups like BNI, where we rely on each other to refer each other, help each other out. But you have to be willing to ask as well and say, I need this, or I'm looking for this. But then that naturally breeds an environment where when it comes around and Rich goes, hey, we're going to do a drive for new socks and underwear, it's like, great. Everyone's like, cool, we'll bring it. We'll bring some. Here you go. Yeah. And so, and there's still more coming, by the way.
Yes.
I know you you probably know that, but there's like a lot more coming. So people are willing and I'll say yearning. And in some cases, I think it's because we all know where we came from. And we all have some sort of story about maybe not even knowing what our life looked like. Like you find out later, oh, powdered milk was for people who couldn't afford real milk. I didn't know that when you're having powdered milk as a kid, right? But then wait a minute. Now I know that's because we couldn't afford real milk. Okay, got it. But then I think there's an element of this too, where, and maybe this is just a cultural thing, maybe it's a time of the world thing, where a lot of things are purposeless and they lack something of deep value that people can attach to. And even if their walk hasn't taken them through an orphanage, maybe they know someone whose it has, or maybe they're just looking for something to attach themselves to that can draw some inspiration out of their, let's say, mundane living, or just going through the paces, checking the boxes, insert cliche here, all these things. How much of that do you guys see prevailing now compared to maybe like say 5 or 10 or 15 years ago? Are you finding people that are like, hey, I just need something to be involved in because I really need to dump time and effort into something I care about?
Yeah, I think we do. We see that more and more every day, and it's just making the opportunity available to them. I mean, one of the things that Rich has been working on with us as well is reaching out to churches, and because we know that most churches will have a missions program, for instance, but we also know that a lot of them are, maybe cutting down on the number of staff and those kinds of things for their missions programs. But we have the opportunity to connect them with an orphanage, to provide projects, for that group, for the men's group, for the youth groups, and, any groups that need to be involved and have a purpose that is just like right there. It's available. And we have several churches over the years. We've had many churches that have participated with Corazón de Vida, and some that are regulars with us.
It seems to me like you kind of like are in between this, like, we have the orphanage and our access point over here where we can give, donate, support, and guide and help. And then you're kind of also reaching this direction and say, hey, you don't have a missions department of your church or a missions group. Cool, we can be that place because we already have all this set up. We just need your people to be involved. Just step half a step closer. Boom, we're helping you, and we're there. Is that kind of a good analogy?
Definitely.
Or illustration? No, analogy. Illustration?
Great illustration. I think where we are today, and this is just a part of me as a person who studies the culture, and we all live in it, COVID has changed us, and there is a challenge to get people out to make a difference now. I think maybe before COVID, we could fill a bus very easily. We could get more people down, and I know that's the case in churches and synagogues. Volunteers are not as invested, which I believe is a social, I don't know if I'll use the word sickness, but it's a social emptiness that takes place because now we're not out and about making a difference.
I have a word for you.
Okay.
There's a bifurcation between those who will and those who won't. And the amount of people who would before, who've decided they won't right now, have chosen, I just won't again. And I think that's part of what, and again, I'm hypothesizing here. I don't know what it is, but I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
And we have our nonprofit that I haven't really shared with you guys before, but there's a little bit of that happening too. We're also aging it, and our nonprofit is connected to one of our family members who passed away at a young age of an undiagnosed heart condition and heart failure. But now that we get to the 5th year, it's still kind of fresh. You get to the 8th year, okay, we're 10th year. But then, okay, well, then there's the shutdown. Oh, we're trying to raise money virtually. Like things changed. Yep. And now it's like, how do we continue keeping it up, even though it's getting further and further away from the event, if you will? And people who have decided, I don't want to do anything in person again, they'll just do things digitally or virtually. Yeah. But some things you still need to show up in person for. Yeah. So I think I've seen a little bifurcation as well of people who are they're just in because they're in. They're like your raving fan. They're always going to be there. Yep. But then the people who kind of are like on the fence, like, nah, I think I'm just going to get off the fence if that's okay. And I'll just I'll look through the fence. I'll peer over once in a while, but I don't really want to even sit on the fence anymore.
It seems that's happened a lot in the last several years. And when we can have our meals literally brought to us every day, and we don't go out to shop. Groceries are brought to us now, everything. And so I think the challenge for nonprofits is that we need to encourage people, if you step out, if you engage, you will be changed. I believe as a person of faith that God has designed us to be people of giving agency to others. Jesus always talked about reaching and uplifting the less, the downtrodden, the marginalized.
Literally the widow and the orphan.
Yes. And the prostitute.
That's correct.
Yes. And so Jesus, that was his example of who God is. And it was just, it's in us to get out and make a difference. It doesn't have to be religious. Corazon de Vida is not a religious organization. It has a lot of people of faith involved, and it has people who have faith in let's make a difference. It's all the same. And so I just think it's important that when you hear an invitation like this and you hear about the stories of the kids that are being impacted, it's you can be a part of that. And that is life-changing. We have a staff person. His name is George, right-hand person of Hilda. He's our program director. And he went down because his girlfriend said, if you don't go down, there's going to be hell to pay. So he went. That's basically how it happened.
Good old arm twisting.
Yes. Went on a bus trip, met some kids, and then as he was leaving, this little girl came up to him and said, are you coming back next month?
Oof.
And he's, I probably will. Not thinking he was going to, but he did. And that little girl, he walked that girl down the aisle, and he was the father who gave her away.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, and that's several.
What?
Right? That's Corazon de Vida, and that's when we step out. I don't feel, I'm pasty white rich. I don't speak Spanish. I'm with all these Spanish speakers, and
the heart doesn't know color, man.
Exactly.
I love that.
Come on, Rich.
A lot of people, when we invite them to go on the bus trips, they'll say, I don't speak Spanish. It doesn't matter. It'll never matter with the kids.
That's
and
right.
Once they go, their heart is full. And I think one of the things that people think about when you think about an orphanage is you think it's going to be sad. It's going to tug at my heart, and I'm going to feel really bad. Right? So a lot of people think that. And
it's like success guilt. Is that
yes,
what you mean? Like,
yes.
oh, I'm successful, I can go do this, and I feel guilty?
And, you talk to them on their way out of the orphanage and you ask them the question. They think, one of the things that they say the most is, I thought I came to give and I got. Mm-hmm. And what you get is joy. What you get is this unconditional love from the children. And you look at it and you think, how is this possible? With the life they've lived, how is this possible? And it is possible because of the people that support them, because of the people that are there behind them. Corazón de Vida, every other organization, every individual part of the community of Corazón de Vida, making sure that that child's experience in the orphanage is one where they can flourish and they can succeed.
Hilda, you talk like a mom who has 500 children.
She does have 500. Sorry.
I do. And I want everybody to participate. I want, we've been talking a lot to companies as well, because we think that that's a great opportunity for a company to have a connection with an organization that can provide opportunities for their workforce as well. So let's say you have a group of 10, 15 people. Some of the things that you can do is invite them to participate on the bus trips and be part of it, or do supply drives, do activities, fun activities, as team building activities that maybe almost like the Rotary clubs where they have to pay $1 if they say a bad word. Well, if they're late, they pay, and then that gets donated to Corazón de Vida. You can make up whatever.
Yeah. I think I have a friend who every week costs him $20.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's so many ways to make it fun and make it mean something.
Yeah.
You know, and it would mean the world to the kids at Corazón de Vida.
So talk to me about, talk to me right now, like in a practical sense, what's something that you don't have that you really, really need? Is it corporate sponsorship? Is it recurring monthly sponsorship? Is it more hands and feet? Is it supplies?
Yes.
What is it? The answer, yeah.
Yes to everything, but I think
Keep going.
Yes, recurring monthly sponsors, definitely. That's what provides stability for Corazón de Vida. And we are always promoting, you know, become a sponsor at whatever level, $20 a month, $50 a month, whatever you can do. Corporate sponsors are those that provide, you know, kind of the big dollars for us. So definitely corporate sponsors. They can be either on a monthly basis or on a semi-yearly basis, you know, supporting us. Attend our fundraising events, you know, because we're always fundraising. So, you know, any one of those activities for us are critical. And definitely supply drives are great because if you think about a home, for instance, that has to pay for toothbrushes and toothpaste and all of that stuff, it adds up. So the less money that the orphanages have to spend on those things, the more money they have for actual food and nutrition. Because, you know, what happens in every household is the food budget is the one that gets, you know, is either stretched or reduced depending on the other needs, right? So if you have another need, you have to buy toilet paper, you have to buy all the other things. Well, maybe today we're only going to eat rice and beans, you know? It happens. And we want to make sure that the kids can have a balanced meal. So we want to avoid having to have, you know, the orphanages in that situation.
Anyone who's watching, and I'm gonna share a personal tip, a practical tip, is when we used to do our homeless outreach here in San Diego, I used to tell people buy one, give one. And so whenever you're at the store and you're buying one for yourself, buy a second one and give that one. So it was always a buy one, give one. So it was the BOGO. But it's not buy one, get one. It's the buy one, give one. And then we also did some sales where we were selling apparel. We would do a buy one, give one where, hey, you buy a hoodie, we're going to put one in the give one pile. You buy and Miguel was famous for this. He'd buy all of our stupid hats and our scarves, and Miguel would wear them everywhere. And he was always doing our buy one, give one because, you know, we attached it to giving. But so anyone who wants to, you know, donate or do a part of the supply drive, buy one, give one. So maybe you pick a month where whatever you buy at the store, that's a daily need, whether it's shampoo, toothbrush, toothpaste, it's hygiene supplies, it's socks, it's underwear, it's shoes. Buy a pair, give a pair. Buy an item, give an item, and just set it aside, and then you can bring it to Rich, and he'll gladly take it and have it as part of the orphanage. So I don't know how helpful what I just said is, but for those of you who are over here watching, going, what do I do?
I want to be a part of it.
Well, some people don't know, right? And so sometimes vague gets you nowhere.
Yes.
And so when you come in and say, we're doing toothbrushes and toothpaste drive. Okay, that's specific. I need to go get toothbrush and socks and underwear. Okay, great. We can do that. That I think helps because some people they go, I'll spend $100. Just tell me how to spend it.
Right.
You need water? Okay, I'll buy you waters. You need whatever. Like that's fine. Just name it. Name it, claim it, and we'll bring it.
And direct donations are always welcomed as well.
Absolutely.
So is there something right now, because you said yes as I was like rifling off my list, like a good fundraiser you are, what is there something that you're just in dire need of that like right now people watching this, what is it that's something you're like, hey, we need this like stat, otherwise we're going to have another problem connected to that?
I mean, I would say monthly sponsorships is definitely the need for us. That's always at the forefront. Because remember, every month we need to come up with a funding for each of the orphanages. And so that's got to come from somewhere. So that's our fundraising activities, our big fundraising events that we do, and reaching out to people, you know, to donate. So definitely that is a great way to become a part of the Corazón de Vida family. We call it the Heart Angel community. When you become a monthly donor, you're a Heart Angel. So that's part of the community that supports, you know, the children, and it can be at any level. So definitely that's great, and we can give you a link or maybe a QR code or something.
Whatever your link is for the monthly donation or a one-time donation, it's going to be in the description box of this video on YouTube. So if you're watching it on YouTube, you'll see it in the description box below, in addition to their main homepage where people can get more information and find out more about what you're all up to.
And I would say any company owner that wants more information about how to participate with Corazón de Vida and what kind of programs, we have, as I mentioned, companies that are monthly sponsors as well, and then they get their employees involved. We can come in and kick it off with a presentation on Corazón de Vida and how they can participate. Invite them to be on the bus trips, and some of them do. The employees will go. Sometimes the company will say, okay, we'll cover 50% of the cost of the trip, or we'll cover 100%. And they can go and sometimes bring their family members as well. So.
That's great. So I want to ask you both, and I'll take turns. Rich, you go first. I was gonna say take turns. No, I'm gonna decide. You go first.
Yeah, do it.
You go first, Hilda.
Boss.
You go second. So what are you most encouraged by right now in this moment with the work you're doing? What are you most encouraged by?
I'm very encouraged by, and I know this is going to sound a little cheesy, but I was thinking about it this morning. I'm very encouraged by BNI, our group. I really am, because I first went because Ricky, who's a part of Corazón de Vida, said, you've got to come to this. You're going to enjoy these people, and they're business people. Be great for Corazón de Vida. And, I was thinking, okay, sure. And then he said, it starts at 6:45 in the morning. And I went, hell no. Nope. I'm not doing it. And still to this day, it is a struggle. This morning was a struggle to get up. I'm not a morning person. But I started to attend. I went to the visitors Wednesday, we have one coming up this Wednesday. And I felt like, I know this is going to sound a little cliche-ish, but I felt like I was in a church. Not because of a dogma or a certain creed was being rehearsed or cited or what have you, but because of the collaboration and the care that these individuals have for each other. And they're business people. They're trying to make a living. Most of them are entrepreneurs, started their own law firm, started their own pest control. I mean, it's all over the place. And they gather every Wednesday, and they love to help each other. And I know that as a person who's fostered community for years, intentional community, that doesn't just happen. That is some work. And I felt it the first time I went. I felt it this morning. There's just a lot of passion to make a difference. And so right now, I'm so stoked to be sitting here with one of my heroes and telling this story, how it's impacted my life, how it's impacted hundreds and even thousands of people's lives in Southern California. That's mine right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. I like that answer. So Hilda, how about you? What are you most encouraged by right now?
My goodness. Where I see where I get my encouragement is from seeing our young adults that grew up in an orphanage that had a very sad past, their situations. A lot of them don't have any family. And seeing them succeed, seeing them become professionals in their own community, in their own state, in their own country, getting married, having kids, being successful professionals. I mean, that to me is the most beautiful thing in the world. I mean, to see any one of our kids with their kids and looking at the amazing life that they're providing for their own kids, because now we were able to see that. That in itself is exactly where I see the cycle being broken.
Yeah, you're literally watching them care, raise up their kids, and they know you're there, but they don't need you. Like that's got to be like the ultimate reward.
Exactly. And they're just great parents. I mean, we see them, now with Facebook and all the ways to stay Instagram, kind of dating myself, but yeah, Instagram.
Yeah, on the
But,
good old
with
MySpace.
all the ways to be able, exactly.
Yes.
All the ways to be able to, kind of stay up on each other's lives. I mean, that's a great way to see that for us. But we also kind of create a lot of opportunities for our kids to get together and continue to support. They still come back and talk to the kids at the orphanage and say, 10 years ago I was there, and look at where I am now. It is possible. It's hard for a child in an orphanage to see a future for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But when they can see it, and they can see it as close as someone that grew up with them, it's life-changing.
It's a peer a peer who's on the other side, giving them encouragement that they're going to be that person someday too.
Exactly.
I love that. I absolutely.
And also looking at the difference that they're already making in the world. I mean, we're looking at some of them already getting involved in politics in some way. And, in the future, I can see them being the ones that change the laws for children in Mexico.
Wow.
And make life better for everyone around them.
That is amazing. I love all of this. Yeah. It's so inspiring, and you've dedicated your life to this at this point. I mean, 31 years. That's amazing. And I'm going to call you a fundraiser. It's a term.
Yes.
It's a term we used to use back at Pepperdine. When right after I finished college, I was working in alumni services. They go, we're not fundraisers. We're friendraisers.
Yes.
Friendraisers who have friends who end up donating money.
Yep. Absolutely.
They're a little tweak on fundraising. Yep. But I mean, the depth of what you're doing is just can't be overstated. And I also know that there's something that like gets you. Like, but I don't know what it is. I just know it's something. Like what? I mean, it's an easy question to ask. It may be hard to answer. But like, Rich, what chokes you up, man? What chokes you up about this?
You really want some tears, don't you?
I'm not trying to go for an outcome. But
the
reason I'm asking is because there's something that I know that. Look, even in our own nonprofit, I can't bring Christian back. I know I can't bring him back.
Right.
But I know that if what we're doing helps give free heart screenings to parents who can't afford it or aren't going to get it because their kid doesn't show signs of sudden cardiac arrest, that's why it's called sudden cardiac arrest.
Yes, that's right.
All these kids just fall over on the field, or they're just sitting there and they slump over and they're just like that.
Yep.
They don't show symptoms. So that's my pain point.
Yeah.
Is that just happened.
Yep.
Okay, I can't bring him back, but okay, all my effort can go into this part of it so that we can help some other family that maybe they can avoid that. So what chokes you up?
What chokes me up is the other 6,000 homeless kids, or kids that are with adults that don't care about them, don't necessarily want them or can't afford them, or the kids that are being raised by their elderly grandparents that love them, but they can't feed them. And that's a common story. What definitely chokes me up is that right now in Tijuana is about 6,000, or is it?
That's about the numbers that
have been the kids, provided. The kids that you see selling that gum, and we kind of think it's cute, and there's a little mom there. She's in between, will I feed my kids? I mean, it's right in front of you, right? And so it's a struggle as people, Westerners, we see that, we're like, oh my gosh, that's heartbreaking. And then we can walk past and go to cross the border. But she's not, and she's worried about that child. And it's very rare that you see a man there with her and the babies. So a lot going on. And what gets me, and I know what just motivates Corazón de Vida and all the volunteers, is that those kids need to be reached. What I appreciate about Hilda's leadership, because I am like, woo, let's go, let's take the mountain, right? And she's like, no, we need to make sure where we are right now is solid and sustainable. So practice of Corazón de Vida is before we move forward to take on a new orphanage and begin that process of vetting and what have you, Hilda's very thorough about what we have now. We have to be very good at what we're doing right now, and that can't be in jeopardy. But with that, there is the need. The need is real. It is there. And they're our neighbors, literally our neighbors. Bonita, I'm in North Park. They're our neighbors. And so, that's what gets me. I'm not for sure that's the answer. I don't know if it was the answer.
It's your answer.
Yeah, it's my answer because it is real.
Yeah.
The need
that's
is
what
real.
I want. What's real for you in this? Yeah. How about you, Hilda? What gets you choked up when you talk about all this?
I think it's something very similar to that in my everyday life is looking at the successes and feeling really good about that, but then also not allowing myself to be so good about it or feel so good about it that I forget that there's still a lot of need. Yes. And so that is what weighs at me, knowing that there's so much need, and that if I'm not out there in our team and our group and our community is not out there supporting and making sure that the support is coming, to the children, then they're not going to be supported. And what's going to happen? And because every one of those, we have a name, a face and a name with those kids. Like we know the kids, and we can, you can't even think about Juanito not having anything to eat, or having to, not having an orphanage to go to, those kinds of things. So it's some of the same, it's just the need is so great that it's almost you can't afford to spend too much time celebrating the victories because you know that the need is so great.
I get that. It's kind of that fine balance between like becoming comfortable in your success and your effort, and also making sure you don't lose your edge that got you there.
Yes.
Because that kind of like that grittiness of having to see things through, carry it out, be accountable, responsible, knowing that you're carrying the weight of that collectively with your team that's on your actual team and the people who are backing you financially and with supplies and all that. It can very easily be a monumental effort every day, and losing that edge, you don't want that to be the threat that kind of like starts making things a little bit loosey-goosey that then ripples through everything else. I totally get that. And what's interesting is that it's also very true when it comes to like business organization. Nonprofits are just a different tax code, but you're basically a business, and the organizational part of that is critical because that edge that brought you here is kind of getting one of those legs of the table that keeps you there. At the same time, you have to take that victory lap when you see those people come back and they're mentoring these other kids that are there that they came from too, that you came through, and it's like, oh, boom. New breath of fresh air, like wind at my sails again, and you could be up for 4 days straight, and you're gonna be rewarded and encouraged by that again. I love that.
Speaking of being up 4 days,
wait, why is there a segue with that?
What
is happening now, Rich?
Corazon de Vida throws the best parties, and every year, and this year's November 2nd?
November 1st.
First, I knew that. November 1st, we are having our annual gala. And last year, how much did we raise last year? I should know this.
About $560,000.
Okay, what's this year's goal? 560. We got to beat it. So what's this year's goal?
600.
We're 600,000.
600,000. Okay, let's say it right now. The goal is 600,000.
It is.
The gala is on November 1st, 2025.
Yes. Saturday.
Now you mentioned 4 days. So is this a 4-day event?
After
we
can
have a rave.
After the evening,
what are we doing?
You are just you're quiet for 4 days afterwards. Just
4 days. There were 4 days of silence.
Pours well, the wine pours, the food's delicious, but the most impactful evening is when Hilda stands up there as a story of herself and what she's done, and then interviews these kids that were in the industry of sex trafficking and abused by their parents, and now they're standing next to Hilda and saying, I'm a lawyer today. I mean, you can't, and then you just party and you want to be a part of it. There's a great family of Corazon de Vida volunteers in San Diego, Orange County, LA. So if you want to be involved, please reach out to us.
So we do 2 big fundraisers a year. So November 1st is the San Diego fundraiser, Noche de Gala. It's Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos kind of theme. And we have a fun event in Orange County that we call La Noche Blanca, which is a white night. Everybody dresses in white. It's in a beautiful estate. And we've been holding the event there for like the last 10 years almost. And it's also a great way to participate, whether you're in Orange County or San Diego. We invite, anyone that's
absolutely
available and willing. And like you said, it's a really beautiful space because the people that participate, the community that Corazón de Vida has built, it's an amazing community of people. And it sounds like you found that also at BNI.
Yes.
So fits.
Yeah, no, great fit. And I'm sure from the airing of this all the way through that November date, people who want to maybe sponsor the event or maybe supply something, I'm sure, do you take food and drink donors as well for your event?
Auction gifts?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Auction gifts, definitely, yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll figure out a way to put together kind of like what's all your wish list. We'll share that with our group, of course. And then we can include that here with this video and our marketing piece of, putting the event date and putting that list in this description box between now and the event date. So let's hit that $600,000. I don't see why you can't. I know that there's varies and there are various levels of contribution to things, but if you did 560 last year, shoot for 600 this year, go for it, surpass it. I think it's there. I think it's right there on the table for you.
We agree.
Yeah. I typically like to ask this last question. Can I go to a last question with you guys? I want to make sure I respect your time. So, so I typically ask everyone this question. I'll ask you in the same order as I did before. Is if I handed you the microphone and you're standing in front of an audience of 100,000 people in an arena and you can thank somebody. I know you can thank a lot of people, Rich. You know a lot of great people. You're a great fundraiser. Who would you want to thank?
Oh my gosh. Like a person that's made such an impact in my life.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it. I'm glad for our new friendship. I appreciate you mentioning me.
He's done this impacted my life.
Who do you want to thank?
I want to thank my mom. That her empathy and compassion in the middle of the hell she was living in always taught me that even though you might be going through a difficult time, and you are dealing with insecurities, and your dad is, whatever he was, and those things. I don't want to go into all of that, but she would always remind me that, I know this sounds, whatever. It's worse somewhere else for somebody. We're here, we're eating, you get to go see Star Wars, that type of stuff. I was one of the first people to see it. I know, I just aged myself, but it was just, my mom always did that in spite of all her abuse that she went through, the pain she went through. And it built me to be the person that I am today, to where I want to carry that legacy of caring for people who are just normally not cared for, who are loved, and it gets messy. And just meeting Hilda, and she's okay with the messiness, like good moms are. And like, let's just do this together. So I got to say, it's like I said, the three women, my mom, my sister Susie, and Hilda. But thank you for that question.
Great answer. I love it.
Thank you.
So Hilda, how about you? If you can
So, it's interesting because I, was thinking through that, and I immediately thought of my mom. And I would say my mom for having the courage to make that sacrifice that she made by placing us in an orphanage. And I know because when I reunited with her as a teen, I could see that she had this underlying sadness in her life. And I would look at pictures of her in that time that we were in the orphanage and she was away from us, and I never saw her smiling. So I could feel the weight that she felt of, having to make that decision. And I am so blessed that I was able to sit with her and thank her for that sacrifice, and to let her know that she did the best thing that she could have ever done for us. I mean, that was an amazing thing that I was able to do with her.
Yeah. That is wonderful for you to say that, and also say it in that way. I think that in some situations, and I don't know mathematically how many this is. I'm never going to say giving up a child would be easy, but I know some people that's their easy way out of not having to do it. And then for you to say like she sacrificed, like there's a mother and a father's heart hurt in that too. Yeah. And also having to admit that, hey, maybe this is actually better for them. That's a big hit too. So I think it's just, you know, I don't hear many people tell me that kind of stuff in this setting. We're talking about business a lot and networking, but I just wanted to thank you for saying that. I think that's very heartwarming for you to present it that way, because I think sharing that she made the better of the choices also says something too.
Yes.
And I'm very grateful for you being here today. Thank you for sharing your own story, what you're doing, what you're encouraged by, being here together. Rich, thank you. This was your idea to have both of you, which I love. And you know what? You did a pretty good job today too. Yeah, you did great. Yeah, the heart knows not color.
Yeah, that's right. There it is.
Yeah, that's
white,
right.
Pasty guy.
Yeah.
I know.
White
I
pasty
don't know. We're gonna rename. I'm gonna change that on the
roster.
roster. I'm just gonna say that.
White pasty dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
Number 27, White Rich.
I'm 31.
You're 31 on the
32,
list.
I think so,
Okay,
on the list.
but you're only 37 years old. So that's
it.
you got
So
that
it
going
worked
for
out.
you.
It worked out
Okay. Well,
amazingly well.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
absolutely. This is gratifying for me. I know this is my first day meeting you, and Rich, this is your first show on our own show. But
Yes.
you know, the thing that's really rewarding for me is doing this and listening to everyone's stories. And you know, what's interesting to me is that, again, even if someone's life hasn't crossed paths with an orphanage for themselves, there's hardship somewhere.
Yes.
There's some level of hardship.
Yes.
Even if we could still say, oh, well, it's worse somewhere else, or it's harder somewhere else, it's more difficult somewhere. Yeah, maybe. But like, you know, I'm going to just say quick Michael Keith, because you mentioned him, like starting his own business, his pest control company. Like, he's the one who made it out of his neighborhood.
Yeah, he did.
Everyone else didn't. They're either locked up or they're dead.
Yep.
He's the one who made it out.
Yep.
And so it might not be worse somewhere else
Yeah.
in cases like that.
That's
but it also
true.
might be
Yeah.
for other aspects of life.
Yep.
So I get a lot of gratification out of just meeting people, getting more of the story, and finding these moments. Because as much as I've known people, for as long as I've known Miguel and Eddie and Ray Estelano and Ramses and Mark and all these old dogs, they still come here and share something I've never heard them say before. And I'm like fascinated by it. I'm like, how have we known each other for 16 years and you're telling me this right now?
Well, so you nurture that. You bring that to the group. So you need to know that.
Well,
I need to get close to the mic.
I appreciate it.
You nurture that. It is real and it's genuine, and everyone that is there eating those powdered eggs. Should I have said that? Okay.
Hey, that's what it is, man.
Those powdered eggs. But you bring that to it, and so we're really lucky to have you, brother.
I think we're doing something really special. There's a season of Partners in Excellence that's happening right now that, like, I'm here for it. I think there's something really unique and special happening. We're getting great content. We have great stories. People are opening up, sharing, coming here to the studio, making more content for themselves, which is the encouragement of this. And then we're getting great stuff. And we're connected now to things like this that are beyond our own business, beyond BNI, but reaching out into the communities that really are looking for that connection point to receive supply, receive aid, receive help, receive money, receive heart, receive attention, be seen, be known, be heard, and then become successful. And I absolutely am here for all that. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining our chapter. Hilda, thank you for giving us some of your time today and your devotion to what you do. Absolute pure devotion, life dedication, 31 years. That is just tremendous. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing and also for coming on to our show today. Rich, thank you so much for inviting Hilda here. And I am so optimistic about the future of what BNI Partners Excellence has for you because of what you're already doing, but what we're doing like literally right now on this set. I cannot wait to see what happens from this. So thank you so much for both joining me today, and thank you all for watching the BNI Partners in Excellence show. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so that every time we drop one of our amazing videos with another awesome chapter member guest, you get to hear about it first. And if you are interested in networking with Rich and myself, we meet every Wednesday down at the Chula Vista Golf Course, 4475 Bonita Road. That's right, the Chula Vista Golf Course in Bonita. You can register to visit our chapter at an upcoming meeting by clicking the link in the description box below. Also, check out all of this week's show links for what Hilda and Rich are up to with Corazón de Vida and their upcoming fundraiser gala on November 1st, 2025. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you with another great guest next week.